Hey everyone, Michael here, and I'm going to do my first Booktube Tag video, which appropriately enough is the new Booktuber or Book Newbie Tag, um, and we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited, really happy to be here um, doing this, but I've never done a tag before, so I had to figure out where to even find a tag. But I did, I think, and we'll jump right into it. So question one on this tag is, why did you start this channel? And I think I started this channel I actually started this channel like 3 years ago. Made one book review video, and then never did anything else. Um, so I'm gonna answer this: why did I restart this channel? And I'm doing this channel now because I'm thinking of it differently. I'm not doing this, not that I really was the first time either, but I'm very particularly not doing this channel this time to, for followers, or I don't care really if I ever have a video go viral or anything like that. But I just started this channel as a sort of a way to engage more deeply with the books I read, with my own reading practices, and with other readers in the Booktube community. I've been watching Booktube videos for, probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 years or something. I never comment, and never really have made videos, with one exception before now. But I've just gained so much from it, and it to some degree shaped the way I read and who I am as a reader, and how I think about books and that sort of thing. So so 2 parts. One, I want to just sort of more, like I said, engage a little more deeply with my own reading. I think it'll add to the meaning I get from reading, to make these sort of video journals about it, journal entries in video form, which is kind of how I'm thinking of it, just a way to talk to myself about books, and think about a book a little more deeply before I move on to the next book. But then two, maybe this, I'm not so arrogant as to think that I have a lot to offer, but just to engage with, give back at least some time and content, I guess, to the Booktube community that has, really inspired me a lot over the last few years. So I think that's why I'm starting it. We'll see if that, those reasons change at all the longer I do it. Question two is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? And, this is kind of a tough one to answer, because I mostly am doing this sort of for myself, and then if someone else can benefit from it, that's great. But I'll focus on the unique part of that, maybe less than or more than the fun. I don't know how fun I am in general. But in terms of the unique things I can bring to Booktube, I'm a musician. That's my job. So one thing I would love to do is I try to visit different bookstores as I tour around. It would be cool to, have some videos about different bookshops that, lots of people may not ever get the chance to go to, or, have wanted to go to for a long time and have not been able to yet. I, kind of get to travel more often than most people. And so that could be something unique that I could do. I'm also from Southeast Kentucky, and am kind of a hillbilly, in a lot of ways. I can't really help it. And, I have never seen anybody else on Booktube that is from this particular area. And not a lot of people that have my accent. So I don't know. Maybe there are just more that I haven't run across, but um, you know, it's always nice. I think as a you know, uh, not just Southern person, but Appalachian person, to hear people with my accent doing things that are not always super expected, maybe. Um, Not that it's that unusual or anything, but just, it's nice to be, you just run across, oh, that person kind of sounds like me, And I also have interest in Kentucky books and Kentucky authors and that sort of thing. So maybe that little bit of geographical uniqueness or geographic uniqueness um, could be interesting to some people either from this region or from somewhere else. I like getting to hear everyone's different accents all across Booktube world. Um, so yeah, that's as good as I can answer that question, I think. Question 3 is, what are you most excited for about this new channel? I don't know. I think that's kind of maybe the most exciting thing is just kind of the unknown. I think I'm most excited to see what kinds of connections I can make, who will respond well and, like what I have to say or find it interesting. And then I can make a connection and, kind of a little introverted, or well, maybe a lot introverted, but, probably a lot of us are that are on here. But I think I'm excited to have more conversations with people that love books online, and I think that'll add some meaning maybe to my reading, and also just dig into the books that I read a little more because I'm going to talk about them. I'm excited about kind of the whole journey and just kind of see what happens, see where it goes. Can't predict it or forecast it very well. Question 4 is, why do I love reading? There's all of kind of the usual answers that I think most people would give about, getting the chance to kind of live other people's lives that you wouldn't otherwise be able to from all around the world, people whose experiences are a lot different from your own. The ability to visit different places, and then, the power of language, to name a thought that you've had that, you've never been able to put words to, or, to learn something totally new that you never thought of, or to make clear something that has been unclear to you in the past. And I, of course, agree with all of that. But I think the biggest reason I love reading is the way that it quiets my mind and grounds me and centers me, particularly when I'm reading, a paper, pen, a paper and ink book, otherwise known as a book. And I do read ebooks and I do listen to audiobooks, but neither with as much frequency as I read, paperback or hardback books, because I just enjoy it so much more. The tactile sensation, but really, there's something, kind of like meditation about it for me. Not that it's exactly the same, but it really quiets my mind and focuses it at the same time, that it, also stimulates it and lets it, sometimes my favorite part about reading is the few minutes when I forget I'm reading and I'm just, sort of looking off, thinking about something in the book, or maybe totally unrelated, that it, that it triggers in my mind and I go there, but I always read, ideally I'm reading, it's quiet and I'm entering that sort of, almost a trance-like or dream-like state in a way. captivation, and that experience is kind of like a drug, and I just keep coming back for that. If reading was just audiobooks or even just ebooks, I think I would not love it as much as I do. Maybe not even think of myself as a reader to this, just never would have fallen in love with it in the same way that that I have. So that's why I love reading. Now the next question 5, is what book or series got you into reading? Man, I started reading when I was 4. So I can't remember the first, and I loved reading so quickly that I can't remember. I mean, I read the Hardy Boys books at 4 or 5. So that was probably technically the first, maybe, but I don't remember. The first book or series that I can really remember and to this day would sort of read again, and I can sort of remember reading it and other kids at school being like, why are you reading that? Actually, that's happened maybe 3 times. Maybe that's the way to answer this question. So the first one was the Redwall series by Brian Jakes, which is kind of like Lord of the Rings for kids, and it's all animals. It's like mice and moles and hares and badgers and things like that. And the Redwall Abbey is where they all live, sort of, in Mossflower Wood. I'm sure some of you all have read these books, but they're kind of, for middle grades, I would say, sort of middle school YA. But they're so good, and they hold up as an adult. I'm thinking about doing a reread of the whole series. There's like 20, I feel like there's about 20 some books in the series, but they're like kind of they're fantasy, anthropomorphic fantasy, but they're just so wholesome. And the big part of the books are what the characters eat. They have these big feasts, and I think there's like a Redwall cookbook, which I totally should get, and start making food from. But anyway, I read that, and it was just, it's still sort of, I've kind of got off reading fantasy over the years. I mean, never really got into it, other than this. And so this year I've been sort of calling this past winter and on to the end of this year as my year of fantasy, which I'll probably make a different video of in the future. But I don't know why I didn't keep reading fantasy, because why I love this book so much was there's, usually, well, I haven't read one in a while, so my memory's a little foggy, but maybe 4 to 6 main characters from different, animal types that are the main characters in this sort of, maybe 400 or 500 page novel. I want to say, 3 to 5, maybe somewhere in there. Pretty big for a kid's novel. And so you'll get a chapter, if I remember right, maybe even multiple perspectives in a chapter, but at least let's say there's a chapter that it's all from this, this mouse's perspective. And then the next chapter you move to the shrew's perspective, and they're in totally different parts of the world, the Mossflower Wood. One's here at the Abbey, and another's on a boat, going down the river. And then kind of so it's like these classes, different classes of fantasy characters, they're animals, and then at the end they usually all kind of culminates in this grand battle against the evil rat, or weasel, or stoat, or whatever is the villain of the book, and all these different good classes of animals work together and fight off the threat. And the setting is just so important. There's the poems and songs, and different classes of characters coming together and inhabiting this really full world that as a kid you just like, I want to go live there. And all of those are like hallmarks of fantasy, really. So I don't know why I quit reading. I guess I didn't realize it was fantasy at that time, maybe, and sort of made my way to, quote unquote serious literature as I grew older, and was an English major in college and stuff. but it's been fun to start dipping my toe back into that and remembering, oh wow, this is why I loved this kind of stuff as a kid. The stories are so good. But also another, key moment when I can sort of remember being a reader when everyone else was like, why are you reading so big books, and just spending all your time doing that? In seventh grade, I read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories and the novels, all of the Conan Doyle ones. And we had this program at school called accelerated reading, and so you would read books and you take these tests on a computer and get accelerated reading AR points for them. And I guess they would have competitions to see who would get the most points. I don't remember them really being tied to a grade, so I can't remember. But these two, sort of giant Sherlock Holmes Signet Classic paperbacks, all together probably 1,500 to 2,000 pages worth of Victorian, mystery stories, weren't eligible for some reason for AR. Probably because it was such a huge collection. How could you make a 20-question quiz over, 2 Sherlock Holmes novels and 20 stories or something? But anyway, they weren't eligible for AR points, and I read them anyway because I just loved them, and everyone was just so freaked out by that. Like, why would you spend all this time reading something that you don't get points for? I was like, no, it's fun. I like it. And then sort of the same thing in like 9th or 10th grade, was in a English class, and we had to pick a book from a big list, to do a report about and different things, as you do. And so everyone's picking small, you're kind of going as small, as easy, as contemporary as you can. And I read The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, and everyone was like, why? And I had sort of quit reading a little bit by this point, which happened to me 2 or 3 times sort of through middle school and high school and on into college. You're figuring out who you are, and I was getting interested in different things, getting interested in music, really, as well as, other normal, person growing up things, teenage things. And I don't remember even still why I picked that long and old and hard of a novel, but just something about reading an old book, I think, must have spoken to me, and read it and just loved it. And it's, I haven't read it since then, so it's been, 20 years or whatever. But to my memory, it's a lot about Parisian architecture, and I just remember loving that as a, 13-year-old or whatever, and realizing that I was maybe a little different, wired just a little bit different about books than all of my classmates. And, that would keep happening over and over still, to this day. You just every once in a while you realize, yeah, I guess everyone else just doesn't love this like I do, so that's kind of my history or a short one version of the history of the books and series that maybe not got me into reading, but made me keep realizing that I was a reader and that I should prioritize doing that. Question 6, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't know if I have like favorite booktubers. I jump around a lot, so I don't want to kind of start trying to name 1 or 2 or 3, because I enjoy different things from different, YouTubers at different points. A question I would ask in general is just, how do you stay motivated to, post somewhat regularly? I know for me that'll be the struggle is, it's a busy week. I don't know that I have time or energy to post a Friday reads, or I might do mine in the middle of the week, I've been thinking, because I tend to be busier on the weekends with shows and things. Might do like a Wednesday reads or something. But how do you this time I'm spending right now talking, I could be reading a book, or just doing a number of things, work that I need to get done, or walking, or just, it's a beautiful day. It just could be doing a bunch of stuff. So how do you sort of or how do you maintain that level of, interest and commitment to doing this, because it's what you want to do long term, but maybe in the moment, in that week, it's not, what you necessarily want to be doing. But I also feel pretty good about it, because I'm realizing that if I miss a week, I miss a week, or if, I'm gone for 2 weeks on tour and don't read much, or don't read as much as I would like to, or, can't make a video, but that's all right. I'll just jump back on the next week. I will say, the one booktuber who I have, probably the first one that I ever saw, and I don't remember what the, why I stumbled across her channel, but I've never quit watching. Not that I watched every video, but, just have been really sort of inspired by, is Katie at Books and Things. So I did think, that is the one booktuber who I should name as being probably my favorite, or at least the most sort of consistently inspiring to me. So that's question 6. Question 7, kind of related, I guess. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Yeah, just consistency for me, and keeping that level of engagement and passion and that sort of thing, up week after week after week, But trying to just keep the stakes low, and, I enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. When I'm not enjoying it, I'll take a break, and, but keep also knowing that the long term is enjoyable, even if the short term is maybe you have to work a little harder to get it in that week or something, But overall, not challenges, I'm not trying to take it too seriously. Number 8, when did you start reading? I talked about that already with the books or series that got me into reading, so I won't rehash that. Question 9, I like this. Where do you read? I read here in this chair. I have a chair downstairs with it back to a west-facing window that I like to read in the afternoon to in the evening, with the light coming through. I read on the patio outside. I read on the front porch outside, and I read in bed, at night before sleeping. Because I do read a lot when I'm not home too, just because I have to if I'm going to read. I'm going to be traveling and working on the road, so I have to fit it in when I can, or it's tougher than you would think, for me at least. But I read in airports, airport lounges, and in vans, in hotel rooms. I do like to read, at coffee shops, or even bars sometimes, pubs. But then also listen to audiobooks when I take a walk, or same in vans or on planes. Listening to audio, I read on planes sometimes too. Yeah, it's nice to think about all the different places you read. It's kind of cool. What kind of books do I like to read? This is the last question. I'm not going to do question 11 about what my book collection looks like. If I ever do that, I'll just take you on a video tour. What kind of books do I like to read? Pretty varied. I like to read a lot of different types of things. I tend to read older stuff, not necessarily classics, although I do read a lot of classics, but I'm usually not reading whatever's new and sort of hot and out there. For one, I just like to buy used books, and brand new hardcover books are expensive, and I'm also there just feels like so much there are so many old books to read, excuse me, that, it's just like, I can't read the new, Percival Everett book, which I am going to, but you know, he's got all these others that I should read all of them before I read the new one, which is kind of an insane way to think. And I don't like totally hold to that, you know, but it's just, that's my instinct is to think, you know, I should read this. I'd like to read all this old stuff before I, you know, start reading what's new right now. Also, you know, the music I play is you know, kind of old, and I like old music. I like old, you know, antiques. I tend to like older stuff. So anyway, but that said, I do read newer stuff too. I tend to read more fiction than anything else, particularly novels. I read probably more. I'm looking at a bookshelf of mine to cheat, but I probably read more American novels than I do British, and I tend to read more American and British novels than I do from others around the world, and others not in. I read much more novels written in English, many more novels written in English than I do novels in translation or literature in translation, which I would like to, you know, I read some in translation. I'd like to read more in translation, but at the same time, it's kind of what I was just saying. Like, you know, I want to read the Palliser novels by Trollope. Kind of, and I always feel like I should do that before I start, you know, reading, you know, an fairly obscure Polish novel from, you know, the same time period or from any time period. You know, so I got to work on finding a balance with that. You know, and there's just books that I want to have read, because it seems like you should have read this book from, you know, the canon, as loaded of a word as that is, but like your own personal canon, you know, even, it's like, I always think of like, well, it's kind of morbid, but it's like, if I weren't here tomorrow, you know, if my reading was done, which of these two books would I have wanted to have read? And I usually tend to pick the classic or the book that I've known about for a long time, that I've heard about, you know, and wanted to read, rather than kind of picking this new book I've found out about that seems really cool and interesting, but is newer to me, you know. So I tend to go for the known over the unknown a lot. But I'd kind of like to work on finding more of a balance with that. But I do, so I tend to read novels. And I, you know, in terms of genre fiction, you know, I have read mostly classics, and literary fiction is like, you know, I was an English major, and so I'm kind of coming from that world through grad school and stuff. That was all kind of that I read, you know, not totally, but mostly. But, you know, I've been out of that world for a while, sort of. I teach as an adjunct still. But, you know, just reading for pleasure. Like I said, I'm dipping back into fantasy, trying to read a little sci-fi along with that. I do like Westerns still. So I think another thing I'd like to do is you know, you know, really kind of make a project of figuring out which books from that sort of tradition I would like to read. I like reading crime novels, like all of the genres, really, like the genre fiction. I like, but I feel like I need a better plan to start tackling them, because if I just kind of read what I want to next, it you know, leans towards literary fiction and you know, classics, which is cool, but I'd like to you know, read more genre fiction too. I'm starting to ramble on this question, so you know, you can kind of talk about what kind of books you like to read. for forever. So I'll just wrap the video up here. And thank you for watching. My goal is also to do unedited videos, just one take, one long video. So hopefully people like, that's what I like to watch. I also like to watch edited videos too, but you know, there's not going to be much artifice here. It's just going to be me talking about books and you listening if you would like to. So anyway, that was me doing the tag. Hopefully if there's something that interested you in there, please leave a comment. That's, like I said, I'm really looking forward to you know, connecting with people online through this format. So leave a comment if you got something to say, and yeah, I look forward to the next video. Thanks, everybody.